Assalamu alaikum. I am double. The times we live in where you need two phones in order to go live to talk to your peoples. So today we are going to have a little light chat about how to balance your hormones using food and optimize your body for weight loss. So if you are joining me, give me a high five, give me a hey where you're from. My name is Mubaraka Ibrahim and you've joined me on my live. So now you are officially one of my clients. I am your health and happiness coach and I am glad that you have decided to join me. So we are going to talk about eating. We're going to talk about eating for weight loss. If you have somebody who is interested in eating whole foods, reducing sugar, optimizing their body for fat burning, go ahead and tag them in the comment. Tell them you got to come check this live out. Go ahead and share it. All right, we have Fatimi from Qatar. She is logging in on Facebook. Wa alaikum salam. So I'm sorry, no, she's not. She's on Instagram. This is Facebook. This is Instagram. See, I got two phones. All right, so I want to jump right into it because I'm not going to keep you guys long. I just want to make sure that I keep you focused on what we're supposed to be doing in terms of your health, in terms of your eating. So one of the questions that I'm often asked is like, what is the best fat burning food, right? And that is a really interesting question because the answer is there's no such thing as a fat burning food, and then there is a such thing as a fat burning food. It is not the food itself, but rather the combinations of foods that you're eating that is disrupting how your hormones are communicating in your body. So if you have listened to any of my lives ever, then you probably heard me beating a stick about insulin. And the reason why I do that is because insulin is your domino hormone. It is actually the hormone that is going to trigger everything else. You have cravings, you're super hungry, it started with insulin and it went to your ghrelin hormone. You are in a position where you're trying to lose weight, but you find that your body is resisting it, right? No matter the fact that you are eating all of the things that they tell you to eat. You're having whole wheats and you're having oatmeal and you're drinking smoothies, but the weight won't budge. That is because your insulin hormone is elevated, and so insulin is a fat burning hormone. That is the reason why I'm constantly telling people you have to understand the way that your hormones are acting in your body, because it doesn't matter how many workouts you do, doesn't matter how often you eat or how little you eat. If you are not getting the foods that are going to communicate properly with those hormones, then weight loss is going to be a struggle. So let's talk about ways in which we are going to reduce our insulin level, what happens when we do that, and the benefits of it. I'm going to talk just a small amount of time, in particular about a ketogenic diet. As you guys probably know, I follow a ketogenic diet. I teach my clients to follow a ketogenic diet because I believe that it is the one most effective and efficient way to weight loss and to optimize your health, right? We have lots of research now about ketogenic diet. If anybody don't know the benefits of ketogenic diet, is because they've literally put their head under the rock and have not actually looked at any research. So, number one, understand that insulin is a domino hormone. When your insulin level is triggered, where it is on the scale, whether it's high or low, is going to trigger other hormones. When your insulin level is high, it triggers hormones that are not the ones that we want to be triggered, right? Insulin is a fat storage hormone. So every time your insulin rises, your body gets the signal it's time to store fat, because Your insulin, that's its goal, right? Is to signal it, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. The problem that happens with weight gain and weight loss is that insulin level is triggered too often. So let's talk a little bit about exactly how insulin works in our body. So this is super important. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think today's live, we probably won't get that much into a ketogenic diet because understanding insulin is absolutely essential, and I'm going to try to keep this short. But you know, I talk a lot, so short to me could be 45 minutes, but we'll see. Anyway, so here's what you need to understand. What is insulin and why do we need insulin? So insulin is not some foreign invader in our body. We need insulin. It is a part of our metabolic function. We need it for our body to function normal and for us to optimize our health. The problem that we have in particular is, meaning that people who struggle with their weight, who gain weight, is that we have too much of it in our body. And then our body begins to resist it, right? So you've heard the term insulin resistance. So I have a couple of metaphors. You know, I'm obsessed with metaphors because I'm a visual person and it helps me to visualize the way things work. And for people who are visual people like me, I hope my metaphors are helpful to you as well. So I want you to think of insulin. So insulin is the hormones that allows nutrients inside of the cell. So I want you to think of a club, right? Your body is a club. It's banging. Everybody wants to go to this club. It is so awesome, right? The bouncer's name is insulin. And the bouncer's job is to let all of the cool people in the club. When he opens up the club door, right? Cool people like you and me, we go up to the door and he opens up the door and lets us in, right? Getting in, we are the nutrients. He's opened up the door and letting us get into the cell. Well, the club is getting a little bit too popular, right? We got a lot of people that want to get in. And that bouncer is opening up the door, closing the door, open up the door, closing the door. All of these people, I want you to think of it as the years and years of you overdoing carbohydrates, right? So all of the people are glucose, right? Glucose, we're going to let them in, let them in, let them in. After a while, the bouncer get tired. He's like, you know what? It's too many of y'all. I can't let everybody in the club. The club is filled. Even when the club is not filled, he's like, I'm just tired. I'm not going to keep opening and closing this door. So now the line to the club backs up. All of the glucose people, they can't get in the club because the bouncer is tired. You know, he got shoulder issues from opening and closing that door. Little tendonitis and stuff. That's called insulin resistance. The bouncer is resisting. Right? He's resisting. He's the bouncer. All of the people who want to get in the club, now the line is all the way down the street. It's getting backed up. That is when your doctor pulls your blood work and say, hey, you have a really high glucose level. Because all of the glucose people is backed up and they can't get in the club. That's what insulin resistance is. Tell me if that was helpful for you. Okay? So I want you to know that's the way it works in your body. Let me know if that's helpful for you to understand what insulin resistance actually is. So when the bouncer gives you insulin resistance and he just stopped opening the door altogether, and all of that glucose people is going down the block, around the corner, and they think the party is still going on, and they think they're just standing in line and they're just hanging out. What happens when people start hanging out in the street, right? They start putting trash, they start breaking stuff, they start causing problems. High glucose. A bunch of people hanging in the street that should be in the club, but they can't get in the club because the bouncer is tired and he is resisting opening the door. All right? That is called diabetes. Right? So, hopefully that's an explanation of what happens in your body. It's because the bouncer is tired and the people is messing up the streets. All right? That's called diabetes. So what do we do to revive the bouncer so that he can function normally? Some of those people who not that cool and shouldn't be getting in the club anyway can go someplace else, can go back home. What do? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to give the bouncer a rest, right? He needs a little vacation. He needs less people to come in the club. He needs to not having to open that door so often. So we need to give him a rest. And how do you do that? Decrease the people trying to get in the club. That way he's not opening up the door constantly. Because we got to send some people home. And that is what happens when you reduce the carbohydrates in your diet. Now, the bouncer can be like, I can handle this flow. All right, a couple hundred a night, we could do this, right? My arm is feeling better. My tendinitis is gone. All right, let me open up the door. That is the scenario of lowering the carbohydrates in your diet. So that's the way insulin works and why it's super important. So here is the other thing that happens. When your insulin level is high, so that bouncer's, he tired, he not opening up the door. The other thing that happens is that it triggers other hormones. Think about other clubs and other bouncers, right? They all in like the same little circle, and so they all talking to one another. So when insulin level is high, you have insulin resistance. It is then going to trigger your leptin and ghrelin hormones, right? Leptin and ghrelin hormones is what we call our hunger hormones. So this is now where your cravings start kicking in. When your insulin level is high, it's actually going to signal, even if you're not, it will signal your ghrelin to tell your ghrelin, I need something to eat. Even though your body has sufficient food, you're not really hungry, it will still trigger your brain. Your ghrelin is going to trigger your brain to make you think that you need something to eat. That's when people tell me, I absolutely have to have pasta or have to have bread, or I have like cravings at night and I just give in to them, right? All of this is an indication of not just their leptin and ghrelin hormones being out of whack, but the precursor to that is their insulin level becoming out of whack, right? And the way that we solve this problem, it can't be solved just as easily as, hey, eat less, right? We really have to go to giving the bouncer a complete rest. So many of you have already downloaded my 10-day sugar detox program. That's 10 days cold turkey, no sugar. The bouncer needs a vacation. Once the bouncer get a vacation, he will come back a little bit more revived, having more energy, be able to do his job much more efficiently. If you're trying to break a sugar addiction also, you cannot do it by reducing sugar. Right? So we've done research around this, not me personally, but there is research around this. And they find that in order to break a sugar addiction, you have to actually completely cut out sugar. You can't do it a little bit at a time. You have to cut it out. Now, the research shows that you can cut it out for normally by day 5 to 7. People are breaking their sugar addiction. How do you know your sugar addiction is broken? 1, you aren't having intense cravings for things that are sweet. So that's part of it. All right. So you aren't having intense cravings for things that are sweet. Number 2, you aren't having intense cravings for things that will turn into sugar, right? I get this a lot. I'm not addicted to sugar. I just like bread. I'm not addicted to sugar. I just like fruit. I'm not addicted to sugar. I just like pasta. Oh, I can't go without rice. rice, pasta, bread, fruit, it all turns into sugar in your body. Your body does not differentiate between the chemical carbohydrates of bread, sugar, and pasta and the chemical makeup of the carbohydrates of cane sugar, right? A carbohydrate is a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate. It all turns into sugar in your body. So, even if you're not a cake and a cookie person, even if you're not eating candy on a daily basis or eating donuts on a daily basis, or maybe you're like lots of people now who say, you know what, I don't drink soda. Awesome. Because by the way, I had the opportunity to look at the back of a Mountain Dew yesterday. Did you know that there are 77 grams of sugar inside of a Mountain Dew? That's crazy. I didn't even realize it was so much. 77 grams. That is insane. So, stay away from those Mountain Dews. Anyway, that was a side note, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it was so much sugar inside of that soda. I did not drink it. I just saw it on the table. Somebody else was drinking it. But you have to really cut cold turkey, right? And so if you have not downloaded the guide, it's 10daysugarrehab.com, the number 10daysugarrehab.com, and you can go there. It's absolutely free. I'm going to give you a guide of all of the foods that you can eat for 10 days, the stuff that you should limit, and then also the stuff that you should avoid completely. And they really, the food industry actually renames sugar so that we don't recognize it as easily inside of the ingredients. And I have the list of over a dozen aliases that the sugar can be called inside of ingredients. So you can look out for those inside of the things that you are purchasing and in the things that you are eating. So when you can break your sugar addiction, then it becomes easy to start choosing foods that is going to nourish you, and not who's going to nourish you physically and not just nourish you emotionally. Because some people will argue, hey, when I'm sad, it's nourishing my emotions that I can eat a cookie. Right? It's nourishing me psychologically that I can have some ice cream, even if it's the whole half gallon. Right? I get that. Not the best thing physically though. So when you are breaking your sugar addiction, the first part is to remove all added sugars. The second part is to reduce the carbohydrates in your diet. So now we want the bouncer insulin to come off of vacation, but we also want him to not be overwhelmed again, right? So this is removing the carbohydrates out of your diet. This is the reason why I teach my clients how to properly follow a ketogenic diet, a low carb, high fat, moderate protein diet, because it is effective and efficient. Now, tomorrow I'm going to talk specifically about what a ketogenic diet is, where did it come from, is it a fad, and is it really helpful? But more importantly, I'm gonna talk about how to know if it is the proper type of diet for you to follow, right? Because there's lots of different options, and we want to follow the type of eating plan that is the most effective for us and our goal, which is bring me to my last point, which I'm often telling people: there is no such thing as a healthy food, right? What's healthy for one person may not be healthy for somebody else. The ideal diet for somebody whose goal is to lose weight is not the ideal diet for somebody's goal who is to do an Ironman, right? There are two different things. So if your goal is weight loss, if your goal is to balance your hormones, if your goal is to optimize your health so that you can live a healthier, happier life, then you are inside of the right tribe. And so I'm going to invite you back to join me tomorrow as we specifically talk about the ketogenic diets, its benefits, its limitations, and whether or not it's the proper thing for you to follow. So Friday, 1 p.m., see you here on Instagram, on Facebook. And until then, have an awesome day. And remember, a journey of 1,000 pounds starts with one bite. So choose something that's healthful today that's going to help you get one bite closer to whatever your weight loss goal is. All right, talk to you then. Assalamu alaikum.